So we're going to take a bit of a shift, and I also have Kathy handing out 2 handouts to you. One is called Encouraging the Heart of Your Farm, and the other one is called The Cycle of Renewal. When I studied in 2003 at the Hudson Institute of Santa Barbara as a coach, a personal life coach, one of the things we looked at is that the rules are changing. And I had some very fun conversations between my presentation this morning and going and having lunch and walking around the trade show with some of you who are exhibiting. And one of the families was saying, you know, Elaine, our son doesn't look at money the same way we do. And you know what? Our son doesn't get to work on time like we always do. And so hard work doesn't always guarantee success anymore. So these are how some of the rules are changing. Also that things are becoming more and more complex. And a lot of farmers that I talk to, they say, Elaine, it's just too overwhelming. There's too much information. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit first about that longer sheet that is being passed out here, this cycle of renewal. Because this is helpful for you on the person side, people side of your business, to look at what is it that we need to let go of, what do we need to hang on to, and what new learnings do we need to take on, and kind of what kinds of things do we need to act on, because the future is not predictable. And so if you are of the old school that says, well, if we just work harder, it'll all work out, right? And I love the stories about camping and being a planner and the story about being in the Walmart parking lot. Because when Wes and I were driving down the road one day, he got a survey from a chemical company. And the chemical company said, what can we do to help you farmers and be more successful? You know what my husband's answer was? Show us how to have fun. Because you get all the techniques, all the agronomy, all that stuff. But if you ignore the fun and the hard issues to your business, it will lead to your peril. So be honest, work hard, and all this is yours doesn't necessarily work anymore, especially when you come up against a wall. And so I want to go through this map with you. And the first part on the top left-hand page is phase 1, which is go for it, which is a very good phase of being aligned and following your dreams and your visions, and things are happening. You're very purposeful, directed, accomplishing, succeeding. And that's a tickety-boo, really awesome place to be. So if you're in go for it mode, like my husband is right now and my son, that's a really good place to be. But it sounds like a 2012 hits, or something hits where you are not fully aligned anymore, then you're going to slip into the next phase. So go for it is a place of where you come to convention, you do networking, you travel, you take on new friendships, you maybe join Ontario Farm Fresh, you join OFA, you do professional organizations, and you also are really good at managing your time, which is basically what we just talked about in terms of balancing work and family. Is someone said balance is not really balance, it's more like buoyancy. How do you keep your head above water? And balance is something that I call an unresolvable problem, is that it's a polarity, it's something that's never done. So time management is really critical in terms of keeping aligned and fully go for it. But as was shared about the story of Lydia, I have a story like that too that didn't have a healing ending. My sister was killed by a drunk driver going home from my farm to her farm in 1988. And so I buried my sister when she was 23. And when you have something like that happen, a tragedy in your family, it can be a breaking point. Or for a lot of the farmers that I've met lately, it's the markets crashing, or it's a divorce or a marriage ending. So you may also, in your cycle of renewal, come to a point in your life where you have disengagement or disenchantment or depression. And this is called the doldrums. And we all go through this, but we don't want to stay in this place for longer than 3 months. And so my encouragement on your to-do list when you leave convention is, when was the last time you actually went for a physical, besides getting your semi-license checked for Class 1? And do you actually know who your doctor is? Because a lot of men in this room are pretty stubborn about going for physical care. And we're at the age now where friends of ours are getting prostate cancer and stents in their heart and all kinds of things. And it would be good if we were more proactive rather than being reactive. So if you're in this trapped feeling of being angry and frustrated, your goal here is to create an exit plan and to move out of that, either by making a mini transition, which is in the middle of your page. So in the middle of your page, in that colored area of the blue and the yellow, you can see where it says, what do I hold on to? You want to hold on to your values, your passion, your vision. What do you want to let go of? Sarah and I gave up our Superwoman capes long ago. And there is a book called Superwoman that my mother gave me in about 1978, and I think I've burned it. Because I don't want to be Superwoman. And people will say, oh, Elaine, you're so busy. No, I'm not busy. I'm very intentional. And I have a different level of energy than a lot of people. I'm also 85% more extroverted than most people. So I get energy from you in my audience and from interacting with you. Other people, as we heard this afternoon, get energy from being by themselves. So you need to look at, do you need to go for counseling? Do you need to get a physical? Do you need to have a sabbatical? And I have a burnout situation right now with one family where I made the suggestion, why don't you just put the farm up for rent this year? And they looked at me and they said, really? I said, you don't have to sell, but other people take sabbaticals. Why don't you take a sabbatical? So you need to look at what your mini transition is going to be. And as I said earlier, I gave up a large garden. I've also now given up cleaning my house. That was hard, yes. But cleaning, I still clean to some extent, but I have a young woman who needs an income who comes and cleans for me. And I mean, that only happened a little while ago. That was very recent. But I grew up in a family of trainees. In our family, we had 19 IEA and agri-venture trainees, and Wes and I on our farm have had 5. So I grew up with always having foreign students live in my house. And that was part of the culture that I grew up on too. But you have to have an attitude to encourage the heart of your business to look at what do we need to fix that's not working. And it was working for you last season, but maybe this season now it's not working for you. So how are you going to renew your vision and find new passion? And are you going to give people in your business the permission to change? Because remember, you're not 21 anymore. And so your seasons of life, just like the seasons that we go through in a crop year, also change. And one of the things that I was sitting or doing this presentation in a group full of cattle farmers in western Manitoba, and this rancher came up to me after and he said, oh, Elaine. I said, what's wrong? He said, I love my cows. I said, do you love your cows more than your wife? He goes, no, but I really love my cows. And I said, what's up? He said, well, this thing you talk about, this next stage called cocooning, now I get it. I'm in go for it. I love my cows. I'm ranching. I'm calving out. I'm happy. My wife's been kind of cranky for the last 3 years. And this is where she is. She is disengaged, disenchanted, and she's gone to this place of, what do I want my life to look like differently? So she's gone to healing, and she's spending more time having quiet times, and she's also quilting, and she's not going out to be with her girlfriends very much. And I was starting to get worried about her, he said. But he said, now I understand. And I said, well, she's sort of withdrawing and rebuilding to try and figure out how she's going to get to the next stage. So if you look at the next piece about cocooning, that's time with friends, traveling, journaling, doing hobbies, maybe art classes. And in farm families, this becomes hugely conflictual at a heart level when he still really, really wants to farm or ranch or grow apples at age 74, and she's given him her best 50 years. And I look at him and I say, when is it her turn to get what she needs? And then all the air goes out of the room because he does not want to be asked that question. You see? And there's been a lot of sacrifice and there's a lot of give and take. And she is so ready to move to town or so ready to go to her quilt classes or so ready to do something different. But he's not, because they're in a different stage of the cycle of renewal. And so hopefully he can help her and they can both as a couple move to getting ready, which is networking, exploring, and training and learning. And this is where I went in my cycle of renewal, and we've had many different cycles, in 2003 when I went back to school to get my coaching certification from Santa Barbara and also a 22-day course in mediation and conflict resolution. So in Manitoba, I have the privilege of being with farmers who are being foreclosed on in Farm Debt Mediation Service. I'm one of the 4 federal government mediators. And that's where I learn about, is it really about money? Do you want to be rich in relationship or rich on your balance sheet, or both? And these are intentional choices that we need to make. So the getting ready part is the career searching, exploring what your options are, simplifying your lifestyle, and you're talking about falling in love with the potatoes and falling in love with coming back to the farm, but also just falling in love again with life. And so my curiosity for you today is, if you look at these 4 stages, where do you think you are at today? Because this is going to impact how you give of yourself to encourage the heart of your business. And we'll make that shift in a moment. So are you going for it? Are you in phase 1? Are you looking and identifying your dream and creating the plan, strategizing, growing, having passion to build your business? Or are you sitting here today, Elaine, I just didn't even want to come here. I just want to rest. I'm burnt out. I need to have a mini transition. Unfortunately for our next door neighbor, his mini transition was a divorce. I wouldn't recommend that, but for some people, getting out of a really bad relationship is their mini transition. For me, it was cutting down the size of my garden and hiring a cleaning lady and making some other decisions of things that I had to let go of. I used to think I could be a pianist. I get very nervous playing the piano in front of other people. It was a $2,000 bookshelf, so it got sold. I let go of the piano. So sometimes your dreams and aspirations change. Now, Coates and Posner, James Coates and Barry Posner, have actually written a book called Encouraging the Heart. And if you go on Amazon and you're looking for something for your employees, this is kind of the manual from the American management people around setting standards, expecting the best, paying attention, the power of telling a story, personalizing recognition, and celebrating together. So there is an actual book that you can read to get more of it. But what I want you to do is think about, how do you want people to want you as an employer and as a fruit grower or a vegetable grower? And this is based on a study that was done in Canada. And there's more than 6 points here. But when you look at the first 6 points, why people came to choose that position or work in that business, that farm business, their number one thing that they wanted was to be treated with respect. And isn't it interesting that when you voted this morning, those of you who are here this morning, forgiveness and respect was your key issue. This is not an accident that this is how this day has unwound. Interesting work, good communication. Oh, there's that word again, balance. Balancing work and family. The next gen, the millennials, the kids who were born after 1978, the year I graduated from university, the ones I'm old enough to be their mother, their money is not their main motivator. They are driven by other passions. And so you need to think about also the fact that they are not willing, Ian is not willing to work as hard as his father. That's just not going to happen. He's willing to go hunting, he's willing to go fishing, he's willing to go paintballing, he's willing to go hot tubbing and all that fun stuff, but he's also willing to work. But there's a different mentality of the next generation. And so what are you going to do to negotiate how that comes to fruition in your business? Friendly co-workers. But then you look here, money is not number one. And I got this sign, Eat Local. This is how Australians, I was working in Australia in August, and this is how they put their Eat Local signs up. And the website there is on the bottom. If you can see, it says eatlocalsa.com.au. So that's for South Australia. But look at this. Out of the prioritization of what they wanted in their job, pays well was number 8. Okay? So sometimes you think, well, how can we encourage our employees, or how can we encourage our son to stick with us? Well, let's just pay him more. Well, it's not necessarily about the money. And then recognition comes up there again. So my question is, in your business, how attractive are you? And I'm not talking about the color of your socks or your shoes or your suit, because I'm the only one in this room in a suit. Nobody told me the dress code here was jeans. Believe me, I'd rather be in my jeans. It's okay. Are you trustworthy? Do you show values to others? We asked an employee once, why do you like to work here? Well, first of all, you don't work on Sundays, so that's great. Secondly, the banana cream pie at Harvest is really good. And thirdly, I love it the fact that I can actually stop my combine and take a picture of the prairie sunset whenever there's a good one. I said, really? Oh, yeah. And the fourth one is you don't throw things or swear. Oh, good. Okay. That's a good thing to know. We used to have a trainee who was so angry that when he threw a 9/16 wrench into the ground into packed gravel, it would stick in the gravel. That's dangerous when you have that kind of energy. So how attractive are you? Are you respectful? And I said this morning, you get the behavior that you accept. Don't accept bad behavior. But what kind of behavior are you modeling as you go through your workplace and as you're doing your farming? Also, how good are you at communicating well, being a good listener, saying what you mean, seeking clarity and understanding? And then the next point there is, how good are you at resolving conflict? And this morning we talked about discuss the undiscussable. Is Jenny in the room? Is there a Jenny in the room? Okay, she's the one who, then I guess you're the one who won this morning, because Jenny was the one who won it. So you can get it later, Jen. That's good. But that's the talking stick. That's the whole idea that conflict is not bad, it just is, and it needs to be resolved. And how you're going to plan your resources. So I'd like you now to flip to the other page that Kathy's passed out to you. This, I tried to make it attractive, so it might end up on your office wall or in the shop or in the back room where your employees gather. But this is just a list. It's a common sense list that you already know about what you need to have to encourage your farm business. A clear sense of purpose and value. We are certified seed growers. We have absolute zero tolerance for dishonesty, which means we do not accept lying or fudging the books or the invoices, and we do not accept saying that we treated something with something because when it got shipped to Korea, the Korean government said, well, if you just change this to another crop protection product, we'll accept it. And my husband and his partner said, no, we don't lie. We will not do that. Oh, and by the way, we will not be bribed. And so the container came back. Do you see what that's going to cost you? Is to walk your talk and to be clear, aligned with your purpose and values. Open, clear communication. The next generation wants three things. They want clarity of expectation, certainty of timelines, and your commitment to act. Just remember that. Clarity, certainty, and commitment. And that's my mantra when I'm working in transition planning, because the next generation does not want to not know what's going to happen. And they want clear communication. Are you willing to accept that not everybody's like you? Is that okay? Are you willing to accept differences? Our son is a nighthawk. My husband is ambitious, determined, early bird. So this year when we had to cut 15 quarters of canola, we would have a schedule that looked like this. Wes would get up at 5 and cut from 5 till 8:30. Ray, our 72 employee, arrives at 8:30 and he cuts canola from 8 till 7. At 7 o'clock, our son Ian goes out and he cuts canola from 7 till whenever he gets tired. There's a 3-hour or a 3-man shift over cutting the canola. And it sometimes is better to be cut at night because it doesn't shatter so much. Anyway, the whole point of my story is that everybody on your team may have a different circadian rhythm. And how do you work towards that rhythm? Wes knows that I need a lot of sleep, and he's not going to wake me up to have breakfast with him. We'll always eat lunch and supper together, but I don't usually typically eat breakfast. Another thing that's been really good for communication in our house, you've heard the cheering of the Canadian-US hockey team. What's the score now? Oh, so it's over? So we don't have to worry about any more cheering? Okay. So that's interesting because a lot of the guys in the room love sports, right? And some women too. And so what Wes has done is he's bought Bluetooth headphones so that he can watch TV and enjoy what he needs to enjoy before he gets his day going without disturbing me. Is that communicating well? Yes, it's giving silence to me to sleep. But you know what else it does? Is that when I'm talking to him, I better make sure those headphones are off. Because sometimes I'll say, hey, hon, can you do this for me? And nothing happens, and nothing happens. And then I stick my head around the corner and I discover that he's got his ears covered. Okay? So sometimes we want to make sure that we're willing to accept that. How much are you allowed to grow and change? I'm a lifelong learner. That's part of the way I'm wired. And communication and empathy. Are you allowed to become a different person than you were 10 years ago? And what are you doing for your own personal growth and well-being? Are you reading? Are you on your iPad? Are you listening to podcasts? I have a farmer in Colorado who does all his fertilizing listening to Elaine Froese. Not that what I have to say is manure, but that he takes my webinars and my videos and he listens to them while he's going up and down these big fields on autosteer. I have another guy who's a rancher in Alberta who downloads TED Talks and he puts them in his iPod. And so what he does, Sarah, is while he's sorting cattle, he's listening to management advice. Because he still can see what's going on with his cattle, but he doesn't need to really fully engage his brain. Again, let's be safe and let's not get our wires and stuff caught up in bad situations. High level of trust, clear roles defined, accountability, balance of work and play, and then regular discussions, which is what we talked about a little bit this morning about are you meeting as a family for family business meetings, and are you allowing outside perspectives? Someone today was sharing with me how their father-in-law just would not ever allow outside advisement, and so he didn't always make the best decisions. So let's look at clear purpose and values. Why are you farming? It's over there. Top 10 reasons to farm. Oh, and there's 4 more stickers than there were this morning. Jen, can you read what it says under there? What are the top 10 reasons for being a farmer?
No commuting to work.
No commuting to work.
See the stars at night.
See the stars at night.
Do something that you love.
Do something you love.
Work with family.
Work with family.
Access to fresh, healthy food.
Access to fresh, healthy food.
Knowing where your food comes from.
Knowing where your food comes from.
The view from your office.
Yes, the view from your office. Okay.
Exercise every day.
Sorry, what every day?
Exercise.
Exercise every day. Okay.
Short commute.
Short commute. Okay, so things are always learning and growing and never same 2 days in a row. Okay, that's good. So those are some answers that you've already put on the board. But be really clear about if you still love what you're doing. And I'm still asking Wes, do you love what you're doing? And he says yes, because I want to make sure that he's not going to be shifting into the doldrums. Also, does the business serve the family or does the family serve the business? And we talked about that a little bit this morning. Is the family farm being consumed by the business? Or is the business serving your family? And I have a tool called the values assessment, which I do with some of my families, because if you value honesty and you have another person on your team who doesn't put such a high value on it, there's going to be some conflict. I also value independence and challenge, which is why I had to stop working for the government, because I wanted to be an independent entrepreneur. So you need to think about what your values are. What is your communication style? And again, for those of you who are new in our group this afternoon, these little white sheets on your table, you can fill in and I'll send you a communication styles assessment that you can do on your team. And are you making assumptions? Are you assuming that things are going well when they really aren't? And if you're not really good at communicating, maybe you could do some coaching or some reading and some development on how to make that better. Different is not wrong, it's just different. And coming to understand your intent, and this is a lot of what we talked about this morning and will be on a video on the Ontario Farm Fresh website as discussed the undiscussable. But I'm very, very thankful that I had parents that always said I could do anything, and they always communicated to me that, Elaine, you are lovable and capable. So I always came from a place of positivity and from a learner mindset, not a judger one. So again, communication is an ongoing process and journey, and you might be a good communicator with one of your family members and not so good with the other. Today at lunch I talked with a family who has a son who is a little bit different, and they really want him to be part of the business, but the other son is having some sibling rivalry because he doesn't think that they both should belong. And so as parents, is it up to you to navigate the wrath of your adult children? It's up to you to encourage your children who are adults, but is it up to you to fight their battles for them? I would think not. But I also would think that you could be a place of wisdom and sage advice to help them. Again, intent, action, and effect. I can't read what's in your brain, anything that's on this cloud side in terms of intent. I can only see your actions and how you speak and respond, and then you see the effect. You would not believe my nasty mother-in-law. You know what she did, Kathy? She came into my house, which of course used to be her house, and she put stuff in my freezer, baking for her Mennonite son. Because of course, you know what? She doesn't think I'm good enough, and so she puts baking in my freezer. Can you believe that? Okay, let's just wind up the tape backwards. You would not believe my mother-in-law, Margaret Froese. She is such a thoughtful person. She knows I've been away speaking. She knows that I'm busy doing other things outside the house, and she loves to bake. It's her way of serving the family. So you know what she does? She comes into my house, doesn't bother ringing the doorbell. She knows where the freezer is, goes downstairs, puts baking in my freezer, and comes upstairs. And if I happen to be home, she says, "Bless you, Elaine, I did some baking for you." Thanks, Mom. Look at those two stories. What's the action? Putting baking in my freezer. What was the intent? You cannot believe how nasty my... That's the filter that you have, that everything that this woman does to me is to irritate me. The other filter is, you cannot believe what an amazing person my mother-in-law is. Do you see the difference? Same action, different intents. So I want you to think about what you're putting in front of the filter that's screwing or skewing your intent. Because the effect can be totally different based on what you think your intent is. Now this is a marzipan John Deere tractor wedding cake. Somebody has talent, not me. I cannot decorate cakes. This was the Hildebrandt wedding, and I said, this picture is going to come in handy someday, and here it is. To be a lifelong learner, grow and be recognized, be grateful, and how you show appreciation and encourage the heart of your business in that person's love language. Now, Craig Hildebrandt loves to eat. And the day he got married, someone loved him, his wife, his bride-to-be, by having 2 wedding cakes. The traditional kind and the marzipan John Deere tractor. That was really good for him. What is your love language? It's based on the work of Gary Chapman. There's 5 love languages. Wes says, don't even bother buying me a card for Valentine's Day. Don't waste your money. Okay? But what Wes would love to have happen on Valentine's Day is to walk in the garage and see that his Chevy truck had been totally detailed inside. Because that would be an act of service. So is your love language gifts, such as this, an actual physical gift? Is it words, a verbal affirmation? I love you, I'm proud of you, you're doing an awesome job. Elaine, you're my wife and you have an amazing brain. It was one of the best things my husband ever said to me. And now I've got him trained to say, I love you and you're beautiful. and he says, do I need to say something else? I said, no, that's good. It's good for today. But you know, it's because my love language is physical, meaningful touch and verbal affirmation. I'm a writer. Words are important to me. I'm a speaker. My daughter's love language, Erica, would be gifts. She would say, Mom, what did you get me in Niagara Falls? Ian, our son, would say, Mom, just give me a hug. And when he was even a teenager, and it's not cool to hug your mom in public, he would say, Mom, I need a hug, or you look like you need a hug, and he'd give it to me. So the whole thing about growing and be recognized is, how are you recognizing everybody else on your farm team? And it's the affirmation, whether it's through words, whether it's through a really good farmer handshake, a squeeze on the shoulder, acts of service. I cleaned out the apple bins for you, or I've taken care of washing out the cider machine, whatever it is. Think about it. And our employee's been with us for 30 years. And every spring on the first day of seeding, he will find a package of Werther's toffee on the seat of his tractor. Why? Because his butt's going to be there for the next 3 weeks. And it's my way of saying thank you for doing a good job, because if Ray doesn't do a good job of planting the soybeans at the right depth, he loses us $40,000, which unfortunately he did one day by not planting them the right depth. So growing and be recognized, you may think it's like, oh, I need to write a bigger check. How much is a bag of Werther's candy? $2.69. How much is a bouquet of apple blossoms from the back orchard? Free. Take the pruners with you. It's the intentionality about being recognized, and as the women were talking about earlier, being in that present moment. And also expecting the best from each other. As a certified seed grower, you have zero tolerance for having barley in your wheat bin. And we now use a color sorter to take out things out of the hemp seed or barley out of wheat or whatever. So how are you creating a high level of trust? And this is my back porch. These are my mother-in-law's antique chairs. This is brick from the original farmhouse that we cleaned in 1980 when there was a drought. My husband and the hired man cleaned 13,000 bricks because there's nothing else to do that summer. And those bricks have been reincorporated into our house. No family gossip. None of this triangling saying he said, she said, you said. If you have a problem with this person, go and speak directly to that person. Be fair, be positive, and be on time. And do what you say you are going to do. Elaine, being on this farm is like being in a conversation that never ends. We can never make a decision. Do you think this young kid is frustrated? Is his heart encouraged? No, because he tries again and again and again to get his parents to the decision-making table, and no matter how hard he tries, nothing ever changes. So keep your promises. Also, be clear about your roles and your jobs. Now, this is Wes and Ian standing on the top of our grain cart, and we have Manitoba Health and Safety too, but you don't have straps holding you up there, but you have to be careful when you're up there because stuff's swinging around. Who is the ultimate decision maker on your farm team? I have a tool, you can ask for it. It's called Managerial Task List. It's by Dr. Baker, again from the University of Iowa. And what I like about it is it has a row called Operator and has a row called Successor. Operator is number 1, Successor is number 5. In the middle is number 3. Ian and Wes together make crop production planning decisions, so they would tick off number 3. Wes makes a lot of marketing decisions, Ian makes some, so maybe they would tick off number 2. Ian makes most or the bulk of the IT decisions around the computer because he's 25, not 57, and so his IT gets a 5. Do you see what I mean, where I'm going with this? So it's a way of delineating how much the decisions are on one side of the camp versus the other. And it also helps you see which roles are overlapping and what decisions maybe need to be mentored. Ian is not really good at getting his taxes in on time. And I found a check for $300 in his room. I found a check for $16,000 once in my husband's wallet. Thankfully, it was not stale dated. That was the best house fairy tip I'd ever got in my life. But unfortunately, it had to go in the farm account. So all of these roles and responsibilities. Another thing, I just put out my newsletter yesterday, and you can sign up for it if you'd like. But I have 2 really good performance appraisals that are just on one sheet. One is by Jim Solden, and the other one's by Dick Whitman. But Dr. John Fast, who works here out of Kitchener-Waterloo area, will tell you that very few families encourage the heart by telling each other how they're doing. So my curiosity is, when is the last time you had a performance appraisal done on you? Yeah, somebody's giggling because it never happens, right? Because we're family businesses. So again, making sure that the roles are clear and the jobs are clear is a good thing to have. Another one is accountability. This is Ian sitting under our air seeder getting the calibrations ready and checking the shanks. And that's really important because this year, when we planted in the spring of 2013, we were all out there with air seeder hoses over our shoulder because the fertilizer and the seed were getting plugged up together. And it was like a huge octopus. It took us 4 hours to undo all the hoses and put them all back together. And you just know that plugged runs are a farmer's greatest embarrassment, right? When you drive by that cornfield and you go, oh, Charlie missed a whole row before he found out that he was plugged. That's not looking too good there. So the whole thing about accountability is paying attention to results and not accepting bad behavior. I'm working with a family recently who has not filed income tax for 2 years. And I said, what? We have April 15th or April 30th as a deadline for a reason. That's accountability. Looking for achievements and offering your support. And then this is another Pausner and Coutts example, care by walking around. So when your migrant workers are picking berries or apples or pruning or tying up the vines, whatever they're doing, do you show care by walking around? And do you actually pay attention to what your workers are doing and what your family's doing so that they're getting feedback from you? I used to spend a lot of springs just walking around the yard picking up bags that the wind had blown apart. And we had a farmer in our area this year ended up with a broken hip because he got out of his truck quickly and he tripped over the plastic saran that wraps the pallets of seed bags. So if someone had just taken an extra 5 minutes to pick up that plastic, he wouldn't have spent the next 6 months with a healing hip. So the whole idea of being accountable and noticing when people are doing things right. And here's the whole balance, work, and play. And it's a hockey team for your family. And my Kiwi brother-in-law is a rugby player, so there's a whole other story there too. Are you having fun? And does your family know you? Are you having fun? And does your family know you? And strong families celebrate. Dr. Nikki Gerard, who's a psychologist from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, did a 12-year study. And the families that had the most ability to bounce back from pressure, which is my friend Judy's word, she never uses the word stress, she calls it pressure. Dr. Gerard found there were 3 things. The first one was communication. The second one is connectivity, being connected to family and connected to community. And the third one is celebrate. How do you celebrate the day your shop door closes and the customers leave you alone for the next season? Do you build a bonfire? Do you go out for chicken? Do you do a happy dance? I don't know how you celebrate. But we have a family in our area that the very last field that they combine, everybody comes and brings their long chairs. They get Chicken Chef and they make a huge circle around the tailgate of the pickup and they have a huge barbecued chicken supper in the field to celebrate the end of harvest. And that's the way they say it's done. It's the ritual. So strong families celebrate. Employees love to know that there's renewal time when you're having this time for fun. And the other point I've got here is workaholics are lazy in relationship. And so that's the work of Dr. Val Farmer, where he said people who always work all the time would prefer to go to the barn, would prefer to go to the orchard, rather than spend time connecting with relationship. So let's just do some self-assessment. And I really like the idea that the panel shared about time blocking your calendar. I work with a couple of cranberry farmers out in BC. Do you know how exciting it is to farm 10 minutes from the Vancouver airport? Because you can't move a cranberry bog. They're cranberry farmers and they farm in family businesses. Many of these farms are over 109 years old. And they were having a hard time getting time to meet and getting time to have holiday time, get that all figured out. I said, I'm just curious, there's a 2013 calendar over there on the wall. It's the whole year. They go, yeah, Elaine, we get that every year from one of our suppliers. I say, so why isn't there anything written on that calendar? They said, good question. And so what they've decided to do now for 2014 is to time block and to get much clearer about blocking off time for family first, much like you were talking about. So balancing that out. The other thing it says in encouraging here, it says we need to have regular discussions, and I put with action. And you can ask on your feedback sheet for my activity log if you would like it. But stuff needs to be focused on, but then you have to execute. You can focus, execute, focus, execute. And Bill Hybels, who runs the Willow Creek Church down in the States near Chicago, has something called the 6x6 matrix. He only can work on 6 projects at a time, and he puts them on index cards. And I don't know whatever system you're going to use, but my system is to color code my iCal on my Mac. So yellow is speaking, green is writing, blue is coaching, red is family, orange is self-care, and purple is volunteer. So when you look at my iCal, you see all of these colors, and if there's way too much blue, that I know that I'm spending too much time with farm families, and if there's no red, that means I'm not spending enough time with family. So I look at blocking my calendar. And Stephen Covey always talked about the big rocks, right? Putting the big rocks in first, what's really important first. And when you have a family illness or a health alert, that becomes the priority, and that really teaches you clearly what your big rocks are first. So regular business meetings make you 21% more profitable. We mentioned that earlier today. Activity logs, just emailing. If you just take your activity log and email it to the rest of your farm team, then everybody knows what's accountable and what's expected of each other. And it's also encouraging to email, and my preference would be is don't email, actually do the old-fashioned thing, write a note. There's Tim Horton coffee cards out in the trade show for any young farmer who signs up for OFA. Did you know that Tim Horton has their double roll up the rim competition on right now for the next 6 weeks? Why don't you take a look at who helped you in your business in 2013, and in the next 2 weeks send a $10 Tim Hortons card just because. I bet that will do more for your business than $20 or $30 or $40,000 worth of marketing and advertising. I got a keg gift certificate from one of my clients this year, and I went, wow, that's never happened before. People really appreciate being appreciated. And a stamp and an envelope and a card are a rare thing. And they're the things that when they go on an office wall or a bulletin board or a kitchen sink, they stay there, sometimes for a very long time. Or possibly the underwear drawer. I got a phone call from Olga. I said, Olga. She said, Elaine, I didn't expect to get you. I said, why are you calling? She said, well, you write in Grain News and I had your phone number at the bottom of your article and I found you in my underwear drawer. I went, oh, really? Why am I in your underwear drawer? She said, well, I just kind of use your articles to line things sometimes, but my husband just died and I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate your writing in Grain News. I said, Olga, how old are you? She said, I'm 84. I said, Olga, how are you? I'm doing really well, thanks, Elaine. And today I just needed to hear your voice. And so she called me. And the other reason she called me is because my number is toll-free. It didn't cost her anything. So my curiosity is putting these systems in place so that you can act and that you can focus and that you can execute. And then I've also written down here, agree on your decision-making model. Do you all have to agree in order to move forward? And there have been some interesting ideas that my husband has done that I didn't agree with. And I said, okay, go ahead, but I don't think this is a good idea. And then 3 or 4 years later, when I see the outcome, I don't say, told you so, told you so. I just say, well, hope we can get some money back out of this. So what is your decision-making model? Is it collaboration? Is it consensus? Or is it a benevolent dictatorship? I don't know, but be really clear on what your model is. And create good systems. I have a friend named Hugh Culver. His book is called Give Yourself a Break. His website is hughculver.com. He's very fastidious about really good systems. He also likes to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, which I can't fathom, but he gets a ton of work done between 5 and 7. He also is an Ironman and runs a marathon, so he's kind of like this type AA personality. But Hugh is very good about looking at batching things. So here's Hugh's rule, and this may help you as well. Email in your inbox is somebody else's agenda, not yours. Just think about that for a second. Your inbox of email is not your agenda. So in Hugh's world, he does not open his email till afternoon because his best thinking time, admin time, and planning time is in the morning, and he doesn't want to be distracted. So I dare you tomorrow morning not to open your email till afternoon. But think about the fact that it's somebody else's agenda, not yours. And so that's what I mean about creating different systems to help things work. And then also clutter is energy constipation, which is why it feels so good to move, except we're farmers, right? When's the last time you moved? 35 years ago. So what are you doing to create more energy and help encourage things? The other part, it says here, welcome outside perspectives. Who are you building on your board of directors for your farm? Who are your trusted advisors? Who would help you run your farm if something happened to your spouse? My accountant, my lawyer, my financial planner, my insurance broker, and my friends. I have 5 different places that I could go for help to help me keep going. And in the prairies, which is different from Ontario, some of our farms now, folks, are 22,000 acres large. They're becoming like large. And I got a letter just this week from a woman in Ontario who said, Elaine, our farms are not acreage-wise as big as the prairies, but what we're finding here is the competition is becoming more fierce in Ontario for land because there's only so much of it. And also our communities are becoming less community-minded. Neighbors aren't helping out neighbors as much, and the churches are closing, and we're losing our sense of community, which is very sad. And so if we're losing the way community used to be, then what are we doing to create new community? And that's building your boards of advisors, but also your emotional support groups. So outside perspectives strengthen your approach and give you other solutions. And I like the idea of bartering when your friends come over and you all, feed the kids and then you guys can go away. When I was raising our young children as toddlers, what I would do is I would always get Tuesday to go off and do my TV shows that I used to do, and Thursdays I would always get my girlfriend's son. So every Tuesday and Thursday we knew we would have the whole day to do the other work other than our mothering work that we needed to do. And that's how you build community, and it's by giving and receiving and seeing what other people need, right? So build your board. This is just another book by Nehemiah and Lewis. You'll look at these words, and again, they're all the same from what we talked about before, about passion and vision and clear roles and meaningful recognition and good relationship. So what is this? What's this a picture of? Anybody know? All you fruit growers out there? Pomegranates. My favorite fruit. Doesn't grow in Canada, sorry. It's always available in October because that's when my birthday is. How do you eat a pomegranate? You shake it? I cut mine and then very carefully pop it apart and put all the seeds into a bowl. How long does it take you to eat a pomegranate? A long time, if you want to get all the seeds out, unless you spit the rind out through your mouth. I don't know. But this painting was a painting of Robert Hannaford, who's a famous portrait artist in Australia. This painting's about that size that it's on the screen. I loved this painting when I saw it, and his wife gave me permission to take a picture of it. But I put this up here just as a reminder that beauty and the pleasure of things in our life is also what encourages us. And so we have to pay attention to the little stuff, like how good were those apples you had? How good were that Baxter baking, that matrimonial cake that they're giving out for free? That's my dad's favorite dessert. I had 2 of them, I confess. And I got to talk to Paul and Barbara Baxter, the people who put that together. So when you're providing something, when you're encouraging your customers, when you're taking time to just count the 1,000 small gifts that you have that are all pasted up on that board over there about why you love to farm, think about the small things that encourage you. And I have a friend, when we used to live in the same city, she would always bring me a pomegranate for my birthday. Cost her, I don't know, $1.69 or $2 or whatever they cost. Whatever it is that's special to you that gives meaning, pay attention to those things. And ask yourself, what is it that I really want? This is a bumper canola field. This is what my fields look like, large and flat. And that's a prairie sunset in the west. And for those of you who are planners, you can take down these 6 roles and make a storyboard. What is your rallying cry going to be for the next 3 months? For March, April, and May. February is halfway done. What is your rallying cry for the next 3 months? Mine is always to lose weight and walk after lunch to the 2-mile corner and back. It's an ongoing issue I have in my life. because I eat too much matrimonial cake. Self-care. What are you doing for self-care personally? What are you doing for marriage care? How much marriage time that you have? Wes and I will go for walks at -20 under a full moon, because the prairies under a full moon are amazing. It's just the night we met the porcupine I wasn't so keen on it. I have coyotes now coming down my lane. If I had my hunter's license, I could be shooting their fur for those Canada Goose jackets. They're short of coyote fur. That's why the price is so high. But we have an amazing place that we live, so we can enjoy that, just even the simple things of going for a walk. And we happen to buy a kayak, because we can go kayaking after supper and be at the lake in 20 minutes, have a nice evening of kayaking, and then come back. And we made sure that we got back-supported kayaks, because like all farmers, my husband has a pretty sore back, and so he needed back support. What are you doing for your family in the next 3 months to encourage your family? Is there a wedding coming? Are you going to plan a special Easter celebration or a birthday party or a 50th anniversary of the farm? What have you got to look forward to? Elaine, I've got nothing to look forward to except work. Well, if you're that grouchy, then you better come see me afterwards. We got to do something about that. What are you doing with your friends? I told someone today at lunch, a lot of our friends are moving away. I've had a lot of loss issues lately, because I've friends with people for 23 years, 30 years. Now they're starting to retire and move to the big city or Vancouver Island or somewhere exotic like Tucson, Arizona. So what are you doing to have friends? Because your friends need to be part of your emotional support group, because when you encourage your friends, they can encourage you. And then the other piece here is community. What are you doing to be part of that community? If the church is closing, if the county's getting bigger, if the schools are being stretched, whatever's happened, how are you contributing community to encourage the heart? So here's your to-do list. We're almost got them asleep. Kathy, we have 5 minutes. I have no idea if it's raining out there, if it's snowing. I do know that Niagara Falls are still running. That I do know. What are you going to work on? You have your list. It's right here. What is the one thing that you need to work on that would make a difference on your farm to encourage the heart of your farm? For me, it's accountability and the regular meetings. My husband's office right now looks like a truck went through it, because literally the truck does go through it every day. The scale is right beside his office. The floor is a mess. His filing system needs a little bit of encouragement. And so I'm determined that because his love language is acts of service, I'm going to take a neat freak who's not me, but somebody I know who's really good at filing, and we're going to go into that office and get it in better shape than it is. Now, if you come into my office, you'd say, Elaine, we need to do the same to yours. And that's what I have helped to do too. So we're all in a journey. It's never done. It's a process, and it's not the destination. It's the journey. It's every day you get to choose what you're going to do to encourage each other and encourage yourself. So I'd like you to think about what you're going to work on. I'd also like you to remember to dream. Go home and tell your husband I gave him permission to be a dreamer. Plan and work and have those goals and achieve. But if you get to that point of just plateauing, say, wow, you know, guys, it's okay to take a rest. Wes was very sad when he said, you know, I own a lot of land and we've got more land that we could buy, but I'm getting pretty tired. And so I said, well, how much is enough? And he said, well, Ian's coming now and we have to expand for our next generation. I said, well, maybe we don't have to expand. Maybe we just need to intensify and tweak the operation we already have. Okay? So there's different ways of doing that. Being able to manage those hard times when you feel sad or depressed, get help for that, sort things out, let go of things that aren't working for you anymore, and restructure the chapter you're in. So if you're in the doldrums, restructure that, get out of there, get back to go for it. If you're cocooning, that's fine. Maybe that's a place of healing and where you need to be for a while. And my good friend Dr. Bob Kent in Manitoba is also a member of the Canadian Association of Farm Advisors. And if you look at his list for good management fundamentals, it's the same thing. two-way communication that's good. Everybody knows their jobs are clear. Everybody's aware of what's expected. They're getting feedback, and management relationship staffs between management and staff are improving, and people can provide and receive direction. So those, no matter which management encouragement you look at for encouraging the heart, the words keep returning to be the same. So I'll close with my mantra, my tagline, which is, it's your farm, it's your family, it's your choice. So act. Talk does not cook rice. We need to focus and we need to execute. And I would be more than honored if you would put this up somewhere on your farm, and 3 months from now, when you're in the tractor and you think, oh yeah, I promised to send Elaine an email, I'd really like to know what you do with this sheet. So blessings on your journey and a safe trip home. And if you're ever in Boissevain, Manitoba, you just say, how do I get to Boissevain Select Seeds? We have a sign on the highway, and I would be happy to have you visit, because I have had guys drive from Ontario on their motorbikes to come for a visit. So see you soon. Thank you.